Northside Drive. Toward New Northside Drive.
I don't always know where I'm headed, but I always find a way to keep going. Roll with me.
Peace and welcome back to my channel. My name's Olivia, and today I want to talk about something that we all deal with at one point or another, and that is anxiety. We've all had those moments where we start spiraling, overthinking, or feeling overwhelmed by what could happen. And today I want to share a simple but powerful technique that I have to use sometimes to get out ahead of those moments by thinking about the worst case scenario. I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but why would we want to think about the worst case scenario? But hear me out. This approach has helped me break free from the anxiety cycle, and I'm hoping that it might help you. Sometimes when anxiety strikes, we tend to imagine all sorts of worst case scenarios. Our minds jump to conclusions, thinking of everything that could go wrong. But what if, instead of allowing those thoughts to control us, we take a moment to intentionally think of the worst case scenario ourselves? Like, when you stop and ask yourself, what is the worst that could happen? You get the chance to confront those fears head on. By giving yourself permission to explore the possibility, you're not avoiding the anxiety, you're disarming it. You're saying, okay, what would actually happen if everything went wrong? And can I handle it, right? Sounds crazy, but I promise you it works. So here's the beauty of it. When you take a step back and really think about the worst case scenario, you often realize that even in the worst case, you would survive. You'd figure it out. And more often than not, that worst case scenario doesn't even come close to happening. It's all in our heads, right? Just to give you a real life example. In the mornings, no matter what time I would wake Journey up, I would always feel overwhelmed with the thought of missing the school bus, right? Her school bus is at the front of the neighborhood. So sometimes we walk, sometimes we drive, but for whatever reason, I had this deep set anxiety about getting her on that bus, right? And I can't even tell you why. Because her school is probably at most 4 minutes away driving. I could walk if I wanted to, right? But for a while, that would be my biggest source of anxiety in the morning, my biggest trigger or whatever. And one day I just got to a point where I was like, okay, I don't want to start my day like this. I don't want to start her day like this. What is the absolute worst case scenario if she missed this bus? Well, the worst case scenario is I would just have to drive her to school. So if for whatever reason we miss the bus, I can drive her to school. And the thought of that wasn't so bad because I work from home. So I didn't have to rush off to get to work on time. I didn't have to do anything more than work out, go home, prepare for work, X, Y, and Z, right? So as I started to keep that in mind every morning, that anxiety kind of went away. It's like, all right, just take a breath. If she missed the bus, you can just drop her off. Drive straight to the gym. So that became my worst case scenario. It actually happened this morning. We overslept and I didn't wake up in a panic. I just said, okay, well, if we make it to the bus, great. If not, I could always just drop her off and head to the gym. It'll just be a few minutes later than normal. Fine. Right? So, helps me. Let's give another example. Maybe you're anxious about a big presentation you have to do at work, and you're terrified of failing or looking foolish. But if you sit down and really consider the worst case scenario, maybe you mess up the presentation. The reality is you probably apologized. Like, my bad, y'all. Let me start over. Brush it off and try again. You may feel embarrassed, but I guarantee you will survive. It is uncomfortable, but it's not the end of the world. So, how do we put this into action? How do we actually use this to help with anxiety? Right? Here's what I do. Here's what I try to do. Because some moments I'm not able to, but you got to give yourself permission to be human, right? But first, you want to pause and acknowledge the anxiety. Don't try to push it away. Recognize that you're feeling it and that it's okay. 2, ask yourself the tough question. What is the worst thing that could really happen here? I mean, really sit with it. 3, rationalize the situation. Look at the worst case scenario and realize you can handle it. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but you can get through it. You can navigate it just fine. 4, shift your focus. Now that you've faced the worst, take a breath and ask yourself, what can I do next to move forward? How can I take action? Right? Because it's not about ignoring the anxiety. It's about taking the power away from it. When you confront the worst, it loses its grip on you. You realize that you're stronger than the fear, and you're capable of handling whatever comes your way. Okay? You are capable of handling whatever comes your way. I promise you. Even when it don't feel like it. So, the next time you're feeling anxious, try this technique. Think about the worst case scenario and then ask yourself, can I handle this? And when you realize that you can handle it, you'll see that your anxiety doesn't control you anymore. It just becomes another part of your experience that you can move through. Right? But also give yourself permission. Give yourself room to be human. Okay? That's all I have. You got this. And even if the worst happens, you'll find your way through. Because you're more capable than you give yourself credit for. Okay? Now, as always, I love to hear from you. Have you ever tried a technique like this? Do you have other ways of getting out ahead of or getting through those moments of anxiety? Like, how do you handle anxiety when it creeps up on you? Feel free to drop your questions, comments, feedback in the comments below. And if you have a friend that needs to hear this message, feel free to share. Make sure y'all subscribe. Okay? I love you all. You got this. Until next time, peace.